Hello, family. Welcome to Tales with Auntie Ngo. This story will take you on an emotional journey of love, endurance, and the unexpected twist of fate. If you love authentic African folk tales filled with drama, suspense, and deep life lessons, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for us. It means a lot to us. Thank you as you do so. Relax and enjoy. Dara had everything most people dreamed of. She grew up in wealth, surrounded by luxury in the bustling city of Port Harcourt. Her father, Chief Kalu, was a well-known businessman, respected and feared in equal measure. But Dara saw through the glitz and glamour. She had long realized that most of the people around her treated her well because of her father. They didn't care about her heart or mind. Only her name and wealth mattered. From a young age, she noticed how people were overly nice when they needed something and distant when they didn't. Even those who claimed to love her seemed more in love with what she represented than with who she was. She wanted something real. She wanted to be seen, not for her last name, but for her heart. One evening, after much thought, she made a bold decision. She packed a small bag, took some money, and left her home, determined to experience life on her own terms. She found herself in Obiato, a township where people struggled but smiled, where life was harsh but real. She used part of her money to start selling roasted maize by the roadside, determined to live like an ordinary person. People in Obiato couldn't understand it. A beautiful young woman, well spoken and refined, sitting under the sun every day, roasting and selling maize. They laughed at her. Some mocked her openly. Maybe she ran away from home because she was disowned, they whispered. Or maybe she was doing this to cover up her runs business, or maybe using it to hide some shady deals. Soon her secrets will be exposed, others added. Some, out of pure amusement, bought maize just to get a closer look at her. But she ignored them. She had never felt freer in her life. Among those who noticed her was a young man named Stan. Unlike the others who mocked her, he saw something different in her eyes, a quiet strength, a determination that reminded him of himself. Stan had known hardship all his life. His mother had died from complications after suffering years of domestic violence from his stepfather. The man had never liked him. He had always preferred his own sons, treating Stan like an outsider in his own home. When Stan showed intelligence and responsibility, it only made things worse. His stepfather saw him as a threat to his own sons and ensured his life was difficult. When it was time for Stan to go to school, his stepfather refused to pay his fees. When Stan tried to learn a trade, the man refused to support him. But Stan refused to give up. He found a generous businessman who took him in and allowed him to learn under him. Just when things were looking up, his stepfather struck again. He went to the businessman and spread lies about Stan, calling him a thief and a fraud. Hurt and betrayed, the businessman had no choice but to let him go. Stan had no home, no support, no family, and no future. He had to hustle, taking any job he could find just to survive, loading crates at the market, carrying sacks for traders, pushing wheelbarrow, fixing broken carts, anything that could put food in his stomach. But he never let himself become bitter. He never stopped dreaming of a better life. He believed there was more waiting for him. He just had to keep going. And one day, as he walked through the market, he saw her. The first time Stan bought maize from Dara, she barely looked at him. She was focused on her work, carefully turning the cobs over the hot coals, letting them crisp at the edges. When the corn was ready, he paid for it and left. One evening, as he passed through the market square, he saw Dara struggling with a group of street boys who had surrounded her maize stand. One of them had snatched a few pieces of roasted maize and was about to walk away when Dara tried to stop him. "Leave it! You didn't pay for that," she said firmly. But the boy only laughed. Stan watched from a distance for a moment, then stepped in. "Hey!" he called out, his voice steady but commanding. "Return what you took." The boy scoffed. "And who are you to tell me what to do?" Stan took a step closer, his eyes locked on the boy's. "Someone who won't stand by while you steal from a woman just trying to make an honest living." There was something about Stan that made the boy hesitate. Slowly, he threw the maize back onto the stand and walked away with his friends. Dara let out a small breath of relief. She looked at Stan and smiled. "Thank you." He nodded. "You're welcome. Be careful. Some of these boys don't take kindly to people standing up to them." That was the first time they truly noticed each other. A few days later, Stan found himself passing by her stand again. He didn't plan to stop, but something made him pause. Dara noticed him and smiled. "Would you like some maize?" she asked. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Sure." As she handed him the roasted maize, he said, "You don't seem like someone who grew up here." Dara chuckled. "And you don't seem like someone who enjoys street food." He smirked. "I don't, but I enjoy good conversations." That was the second time she truly looked at him and smiled, like she was seeing something she hadn't before. That was how it all started. Slowly, their conversations grew longer. At first, they only talked about the weather, about the market, about random things. But as time went on, they shared more. Over time, Stan started stopping by her maize stand, not just to buy, but just to talk, and he helped her pack up when the last customer left. One evening, as he lifted the small charcoal stove, she spoke. "Why do you do this?" He shrugged. "It's just right." Dara looked at him, smiled, and said, "Thank you." He was careful at first, not wanting to come across as just another man trying to impress her. But there was something about Dara that drew him in. She was different. She was kind, and she listened. One day he finally asked, "Can we be friends?" Dara looked at him, searching his face for any sign of deceit, but she saw none, just honesty. "Yes," she said with a smile. "I would like that." Their friendship grew, and so did their feelings. It wasn't sudden. It was slow and steady, built on respect, love, and understanding. One evening after her last customer left, they went for a walk together. Dara told him how she had left home because she wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she had. Stan told her about his struggles, about his stepfather, about the life he had to fight for. Dara admired Stan's strength, his resilience. He had been through so much, but had not lost his kindness. Stan, in turn, was drawn to Dara's simplicity, her ability to find joy in the little things. One day, Dara took his hand, her grip firm yet warm. "I want you to meet my father." Stan hesitated, his heart pounding. "Are you sure about this?" She nodded, looking into his eyes. "Yes." Then they set out to travel to see Dara's father. The journey to Port Harcourt felt longer than usual. Stan sat silently beside her, his hands clenched into fists. He had fought many battles in his life, but this felt different. It wasn't a physical fight, but it carried a weight heavier than any he had ever known. When they arrived at her father's mansion, Stan could feel his pulse hammering against his skin. The guards at the entrance gave him a scrutinizing look, but let him through when Dara spoke. Everything about the place screamed wealth. The polished floors, the grand chandeliers, the well manicured lawns. He felt like an outsider, like a man who didn't belong in such a world. Then Chief Kalu walked in. The moment their eyes met, the room seemed to shrink. Stan felt the air leave his lungs. There was silence, thick and heavy. Then recognition flashed across the older man's face. Stan! Chief Kalu's voice held disbelief, his eyes wide with shock. Stan swallowed hard. His mind raced back to the past, to the time he had been full of hope, working under this very man before everything crumbled. Dara looked between them, confusion etched on her face. You know each other? Chief Kalu exhaled deeply. Yes. Years ago, this young man was learning under me, until someone lied about him and I let him go. Stan felt a lump in his throat. You believed him? At first, yes, Chief Kalu admitted, his voice filled with regret. But later, I discovered the truth. I searched for you, but you had disappeared. Stan clenched his jaw. The pain of that betrayal still lingered. The years of struggle that followed had been unbearable. Tears burned behind his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Dara smiled gently and said, Dad, he is the one I told you about. We are in love and would want you to bless us. Chief Kalu took a step forward, his voice softer. You were wronged, but now I know who you are. You're a good man, and I have no doubt you'll make my daughter happy. Dara squeezed Stan's hand tightly. He already does. Chief Kalu smiled. Then you have my blessing. Stan could barely believe it. After years of suffering, of being pushed aside, of losing everything, here he was, not only finding love but also justice. Moral of the story: love and goodness always find a way. No matter how much life tries to break you, if you stay true to yourself, your moment will come. If you love this story, please don't forget to subscribe for more African folk tales filled with drama, suspense, and deep life lessons. The end.